let's start with the first topic. We're talking about the Chiefs. They've won their second Super Bowl in 5 years. Mahomes has got his second ring. Mahomes also got his second Super Bowl MVP in his third Super Bowl appearance. But I want to ask, what do you think of the game? What was your reaction to the game overall from first quarter?
To my mind, it was two different games.
Okay.
The first half, the Eagles were world beaters. The second half, the Chiefs were world beaters. It was two totally different games. I think that in the Super Bowl, I mentioned this last show, there were lots of delays during the game, lots of commercials. The halftime show is like, 45 minutes, almost an hour. And I think that the Eagles lost focus when they went in for halftime, and they came out a little flat, and the Chiefs were much better. But just to recap the game, on the first drive, the Eagles looked like world beaters on the first drive, right? They were running the ball, passing the ball. Hurts scored on a 1-yard run, 7-0. But the Chiefs came right back with the Pacheco running the ball. He had a nice game. And Kelsey catching it then with the 7-7. And then the Chiefs held them. But they couldn't convert. They missed the field goal. And then Hurts had that beautiful bomb to A.J. Brown, right? Made it 14-7. And then the Chiefs had to punt. But the Eagles were driving and looking good, but Hurts fumbled it. That was a big play in this game. How did he manage to drop the ball there? It looks like it wasn't even tipped away from him. It didn't look like anyone really hit it. He just kind of dropped it.
Right.
And it bounced right up into the defender's hands, and he ran it in for a score, and that tied it up 14. And the Eagles were running the ball very effectively, and they risked it on fourth down, and Hurts had a great run there to convert that. And that made it, and then he ran again for a score, and it's 21-14. Then the Eagles stopped the Chiefs, and Mahomes looked like he got hurt badly, right? He was down on the field for quite a bit of time there, and then when he got up, he over on the sidelines, he looked like he was in agony. And I thought that could be really bad for the Chiefs, but in the second half, he didn't look like he was hurt at all. I don't know, maybe they gave him some sort of really strong painkiller or something, but he's probably hurting today on that high ankle sprain. There was a great punt return after that from the Eagles. They went no huddle, and they had that great pass to Smith, but they called it incomplete, and looked like it was incomplete. I think he was bobbling the ball when he went out of bounds. And then they had another really good pass to Brown with 15 seconds left, and they went in 24-14 at the end of the first half. That looked like they looked like world beaters. So I thought they were on their way to a pretty big victory, up by 10 points at halftime. Generally, in the Super Bowl, when you're up by that much at halftime, you win the game. There's only been a couple times when teams have come back from more than 10 points. But the Chiefs had no third down conversions in the first half. But in the second half, they looked like a totally different team. They made adjustments. The first drive, they drove right down, 11 plays to score, made it 24-21. And then the Eagles came right back. The Eagles, Goddard had some nice catches on that drive, and Hurts converted a 4th and 1. But the drive stalled, but they wound up getting the field goal, so that put them up 27-21. And the Chiefs came right back, running well with Pacheco. I think their running game looked really good in the second half. Both Mahomes and Pacheco running the ball well. They passed, and Schuster came alive. He was catching the ball. And the next two touchdowns really were walk-ins, right? Mahomes had a nice fake, and Tony walked in for a touchdown, made it 28-27 Chiefs. The Eagles punted. The Chiefs held them. Great return by Tony. Took it down to the 5-yard line. And then another nice fake by Mahomes. Threw a pass out there on the flat to Moore. He walked in, 35-27. And the Eagles came right back again, though. They drove passes to Brown and to Smith. That Smith pass is a 46-yarder. That was a nice pass. Hurts had a 1-yard TD, and he made the 2-pointer. At that point, he had 3 touchdowns and the 2-pointer.
Yeah.
And in his passing, 304 yards. He would have been the MVP for sure if the Eagles had won.
Oh, 1,000%.
He had an excellent game. That made it 35-35, only 4.5 minutes to go. The Chiefs come right back down the field. Pacheco and Mahomes running the ball, get to the 20-yard line. And this is where that big play happened, right? Mahomes passes it to the end zone, and they said Goddard, number 24, was holding him. It kind of looked like he might have been holding, but I don't think he was. He looked like he had his hand on the guy's back, but he looked like his hand was clenched. So he wasn't really holding him. And at that point, it was 3rd and 8. Would have been 4th down. The Chiefs would have kicked the field goal there, but then there was 1:48 to go. And as it turned out, the Chiefs got the first down. They ran the clock down. They could have scored a touchdown. They didn't. They ran the clock down to 8 seconds and kicked the field goal, and then there just wasn't any time left. Yeah. So I do think that play was a big factor in the game. If with 1:48 left to go, the way the Eagles were moving the ball, it probably would have gone to overtime, right? Because all the Eagles would have had to do is get a field goal, and that would have tied it up again.
Right.
Probably would have gone to overtime. Who knows what would have happened then?
Right.
So that was a big play. I agree.
So that was pretty good. That was a very, very in-depth recap of the game. I said back on Friday when we talked about the show where we tried to highlight the Super Bowl, I said Hassan Reddick, a edge rusher for the Eagles, is going to need to have a Chris Jones AFC Championship type game where he's literally going to need to take over on defense and have the game of his career. Not only did he not have the game of his career, I'm going to bring it up right now. I believe he was one of the lowest rated defenders on the Eagles defense. The entire Eagles defense, the one who needed 5 sacks to break the record for most sacks in a singular total season, playoffs included, this defense did not show up in the least. They were the second total defense in the league, first in passing, 16th in rushing.
They were pretty good in the first half, right? They gave up 14 points they gave up 7 points, really. Because the other 7 points were defensive touchdowns. So they played great in the first half. I mean, they bent a little bit. They didn't break. They only gave up 1 touchdown, and that was the Chiefs' first drive. And most of the Chiefs gave up a touchdown on their first drive. Both teams were getting warmed up. I think the defenses were quite engaged then. But after that, the Eagles' defense played great in the first half. It was the second half where the Chiefs made the adjustments. And the Eagles couldn't respond.
Right.
Yeah.
The most shocking thing to me was how well the Chiefs ran the ball. The Chiefs were the 20th best rushing team in the NFL, and they outrushed one of the best rushing teams. The Eagles are number 5 in rushing on offense. The Chiefs are 20th, and the Chiefs were able to outrush the Eagles in this game.
Yeah, plus they were much more efficient. Their yards per play were 6.6 and the Eagles 5.9.
Yeah.
So they beat them on that, even though the Eagles had more plays than they did. So, the Chiefs' offense was very efficient once they got it going.
Yeah. No, I got to give it to the play calling by Andy Reid. He really dialed it up big time.
Yeah.
I will also say this. A lot of what people hated Trayvon Diggs for early on, he almost gave up like 1,000 yards when he was targeted against, I think 1 or 2 seasons ago, was since he was a young cornerbacks, they like to, make big plays and make a name for themselves. So they may try to predict and jump the play before it actually develops. And the Eagles gave up 2 touchdowns doing exactly that. Like you said, it was Sky Moore and it was Kadarius Toney, who the Eagles decided to bite. And I think I actually have it here. Hopefully this is the play. So this, I believe, is at the bottom of the screen. This is Kadarius Toney's one. Darius Slay doesn't even look towards. He just sees Kadarius Toney trying to, I guess, cross the motions across the field. Instead, all Kadarius Toney does is stop and go back, and Darius Slay doesn't even look back at him. He didn't even know Kadarius Toney was even back there.
Yeah.
And this is, I believe, the Sky Moore play. This is the Sky Moore play. Same thing, Sky Moore. Except this time,
wide open.
This time it was number 29.
Nobody within 15 yards of him.
Number 29 for the Eagles is, I'm trying to find it here. It was Maddox. Maddox gets sent out by the other corner, and then apparently that becomes Maddox's guy. And all of a sudden, Maddox is running to who? He was running to Kingdom Come. No one was waiting for him. And then Sky Moore does the exact same move, and that puts them up 35 to, was it 35-24 at that time? So the Eagles tried to do something weird on defense where they just said, as soon as they saw a guy motion, they say, okay, let me expect him to go all the way down there. All the Chiefs needed to do.
I don't think it was ever 35-24. Right.
Was it, let's see, what was that? What was the last play I had?
It was 27-21 Eagles.
Right, and that's what we have here. They scored 7.
And then the Eagles, then the Chiefs scored to make it
35-27.
No, 28-27. They made it 28-27.
Right, and that's this
Then
play?
it was 35-27.
That's
right.
Isn't that what I just?
No, you said 35-24.
Okay, so 35-27. Yes. So, and this look, Sky Moore.
Wide open.
Maddox is going nowhere. He gets motioned off. Look, number 24, Bradbury sends him. He says, go. Maddox is going nowhere. And then Sky Moore comes back and says, hey, I'm wide open, thanks.
I don't know how they can leave that guy
prancing touchdown.
Same with Tony. Slay made the mistake. He went inside. He should have stayed outside.
And then also the Eagles special
Whether he could have stopped him or not, I don't know. There was a lot of room to run around over there.
Yeah. The Eagles special teams was also very, very poor this year, and it showed on actually Kadarius Toney broke a record in this game, the longest punt return in Super Bowl history, which was I think 65 yards on that play, and the Eagles special teams was horrible. That first contact before Kadarius Toney made the move to go all the way back around, there were like 9 or 10 Eagles guys just waiting for him. The entire other half of the field was wide open, and then the punter he got blocked. And then Kadarius Toney kept running, and the punter had to go all the way back around, and he's the one that actually made the tackle on Kadarius Toney. The Eagles...
He had a nice game, Tony.
Yeah, he had a very, very efficient game.
Yeah, he had a touchdown, and he had that punt return.
Yeah.
Very nice. Kelsey had a nice game.
Kelsey had a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into...
Pacheco had a very nice
Super Bowl MVP. We're going to talk about Super Bowl MVP later in the show.
Pacheco had a nice game.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Eagles called this one up.
Chris Jones
he didn't really do nothing.
Yeah, well, the defense was pretty serviceable.
Chris Jones, out of the 20 starters, he was graded 11th. So he had a middle of the pack game. Didn't really do. I don't think he generated 4 hurries and he only had 2 tackles, and one of them was assisted. The others were he didn't have a QB hit or a sack. I don't think there was 2 sacks, I think, total in this game.
It was a very close game. Very close game. It was a great game. It's a shame on that play.
Yeah.
That penalty. They shouldn't have called that penalty. Would have given the Eagles enough time to make probably would have tied it up again and gone into overtime. And then the overtime Super Bowl games has only been one. Yeah.
Which was, ironically, was the Patriots-Falcons, which is the only other team at this point now to win a game when down 10 or more in the second half. The Chiefs and now those Patriots are both in the record books for that.
Yeah.
Teams are now 26-2 when it comes to being down 10 points or more in one half. Those 2 wins being obviously the Patriots in Super Bowl 51 and this past game last night, Chiefs-Eagles. I'm putting this a lot on the Chiefs, the Eagles defense, because Patrick Mahomes did not have a great game. He did not have a great game. He didn't make tight window throws. He didn't go outside the pocket and make unbelievable throws like he did against the Bucs. He didn't do anything too fancy. That ankle, it looked fine. You know how I know it looked fine? He ran for like a 30-yard rush at the very end of that game. If the ankle was really bothering him, he wouldn't be able to do that. He wasn't grimacing or wincing throughout the entire day.
He did have 3 touchdown passes.
All 3 of them were in the red zone. None of them were deep throws to someone. There was one the first touchdown to Kelsey was a beautiful throw.
He didn't have any turnovers.
He didn't have any turnovers. That's a first for him in a Super Bowl.
He played through injury.
We said last week his ankle ain't really that much.
He rallied from 10 points down.
That's impressive. But I'm saying that's more the Eagles' collapse because the defense couldn't stop nothing. They couldn't stop.
He played much better than his prior 2 Super Bowls.
He did. No, I'm saying, because
his rating in those prior Super Bowls was only 64.2.
No, his prior Super Bowls are terrible.
556 yards and 4 interceptions.
I know.
This game, he had no turnovers.
No turnovers and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. But 2 of those touchdowns, I believe, were what? We saw them in within the 1 yard line.
But I mean,
and these were wide open.
No, but his movement, those are really well designed plays.
Those are phenomenal plays, yes.
Phenomenal plays.
And Travis Kelce.
And he executed them perfectly.
Travis Kelce, when he said, okay, how do you get so wide open? He didn't say, Patrick Mahomes throws me wide open. He said, Big Red. Andy Reid's getting me wide open. So if you think about that, Travis Kelce, and by the way, Travis Kelce butting into every Mahomes interview. And also, he said after Super Bowl, he said, everyone doubted us. That's not true.
That's not true.
You were a top 3 favorite entering the season. What are you talking about? Everyone doubted you.
I picked them to get to the Super Bowl.
You picked them to get to the Super Bowl. So I don't think no one doubted you.
That's who he is. He's like that. He likes to run his mouth.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm putting this more on the Eagles defense because they absolutely collapsed. They were not the same defense they were the entire year.
I agree. Like I said, 70 sacks in the season. They didn't come close to it this game.
You know how I know that? They had 0. They needed 5 sacks to break all-time NFL history. They had 0 in this game because the Chiefs are number 1 in pass block win rate. They technically had the best offensive line when Mahomes drops back in the pocket. And I'll say this about Pacheco. I believe he was a 7th rounder in this past draft. They stole Pacheco. Pacheco has been a phenomenal running back for them. In the past couple seasons, the Chiefs did not have a great running game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has seemingly moved to the 2nd or 3rd running back. He's been hurt. He hasn't played very well.
Was he even on the roster for this game? I don't know.
I don't think.
I think he's a pretty good player. He had a season where he had 1,000 yards.
I don't think he had a single.
I don't think he was on the field at all. I didn't see him.
He did not run the ball a single time. Wasn't even on the field a single time. They have Jerick McKinnon now. They're receiving back as they're running back too now. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's supposed to be the solution for them, isn't even on the field anymore.
Yeah.
He's hurt and he doesn't play.
Well, they don't need him with the way Pacheco played.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They finally have a running game now. They have arguably the best center in Creed Humphrey. They have some very good guards.
Joe Thuney.
Yeah, Joe Thuney is arguably one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the league right now.
He's on the Chiefs. He won a Super Bowl ring.
I think he's had in 7 years, he has 4 Super Bowl appearances and 3 rings. I believe that's what it is. Yeah. I think it's 2 with the Patriots. 2 with the Chiefs and 1 with the Patriots. And then, he's think about that. 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 rings, 7
How many
seasons.
years has Mahomes been in the league now?
This is his 5th year starting, 6th total year.
And he has 2 Super Bowl rings now.
2 Super Bowl rings, 3 appearances.
So
you can't say Brady. He had 3 and 5 with 2 MVPs.
If he plays 15 years and he gets 2 Super Bowls every 5 years, he'll have 6.
6. Still won't pass Brady.
No.
Still won't pass Brady. And
I don't think he will. I don't think he'll pass Brady.
He has to first pass Joe Montana.
Yeah.
So right now, if you're still ranking the top 3 quarterbacks of all time, you can't put him over Joe Montana. Joe Montana is 1 more.
Not yet.
I know not yet. But you know what? Here's the thing. Brady won 3. He said, he's not even close to Joe Montana yet because Joe Montana went 4-0. And now, Mahomes wins 2 and he's better than Brady.
Yeah. How many more years do you think Andy Reid will coach?
He's
getting
what?
Up there in age.
65, I think, now?
I think he's the oldest coach to win a Super Bowl last night. I think they said that.
No, I still think that's Belichick because I think Andy Reid is not even 70 years old, which then that would make him. Andy Reid's 64. Yeah, Belichick hasn't beat by, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Okay, I thought I heard that last night.
And even how old is Bruce Arians? Because Bruce Arians, he has to be older. Yeah, Bruce Arians is the oldest.
How old is he? Yeah.
So Bruce Arians technically is the oldest head coach to win, but Patrick Mahomes did not have a great game. 180 yards, almost 50% of his yards were yards after the catch. And I'm going to talk about this later.
He had some nice runs.
He had 1 nice run.
He had the 14-yard scramble. That was a key play in the first touchdown after the half. It really got him going. Mm-hmm. And then he had that big run right before the field goal.
That was the biggest run of
but
probably
that 14-yard scramble, I think, was the more important play because that kept that drive going and kept their momentum going. Got their momentum going.
But this run was it was the last drive of the game, essentially.
True.
I will say this, though. There was at one point, I think Mahomes had like 69 yards. 60 of them were Travis Kelce. And I said before that if the Chiefs win, Kelce deserves to be MVP. And we're going to get into that because I think Mahomes may have been the 3rd best. First of all, Mahomes wasn't even the best quarterback in the game. And I think there were 2 players above him.
You're not going to give the most valuable player to the team loses.
No, the Cowboys had that. The Cowboys had I think there was co-MVPs.
But they won the game.
No. I think there was a Cowboys Super Bowl where they lost.
No, they won that. There were two defensive players that got COVID MVP, and they won the game.
Well, there was a Super Bowl MVP loser.
I'd like to know which one that is. I don't know which.
I'll bring it up when we get to that topic. But my reaction to the Chiefs' performance is, thank God the Eagles' defense all of a sudden became pedestrian because they didn't look the same. Nowhere near the same.
They didn't measure up in the second half. That's for sure.
If I'm not mistaken,
you got to say they played well in the first half. They only gave up 7 points to one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL. Right? They only gave up 7 points in the first half. Right?
Yeah, but still,
they fell apart in the second half.
Mahomes is still dealing though.
I think they lost their focus at halftime.
I think Mahomes like 8 of 13 for 93 yards and I believe a touchdown. So Mahomes, in that case, you may argue that he was still, 8 of 13, a touchdown, 93 yards.
Some key plays.
Yeah.
And they made some key plays. And they scored almost every drive in the second half, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they lost out on any drive. I think they scored at least a field goal on every drive.
Yeah.
So,
by the way,
that doesn't speak very highly of the Eagles defense, that's for sure. They fell apart in the second half. They lost their focus.
Yeah.
They were great for one half. You got to be great for 2 halves if you want to win the Super Bowl.
Football's 60 minutes.
That's right.
To answer the question, the only Super Bowl MVP from the losing team was Chuck Howley of the Cowboys when they lost to Baltimore 16-13 on a field goal, 5 seconds left.
Stat.
It's the only Super Bowl MVP. And Chuck Howley was just elected to the Hall of Fame. So that is the only Super Bowl MVP on a losing team.